This is Chapter 5, Lesson 8, Comparing and Ordering Fractions. There are multiple ways to do these problems. I am going to show you one. It's the simplest way, but you have to remember the rule or the process. There are other ways which might be more intuitive, but they take longer and can involve more calculation. So for these, if you can multiply, you can do these problems pretty readily. So we are going to compare fractions. If one is greater than the other, less than the other, or if they're equal to each other. So let's start with the simplest of ideas. If you're comparing a fraction, and the book's going to give you a blank circle, to each other, and they're going to ask you, these are the kind of problems you're going to be doing, is fill in this circle with either a greater than, a less than, or an equal sign. So really I'm asking myself the question, which is the larger, which is the smaller of these two fractions, or are they equal to each other? This is the easiest of them, because if the denominators are the same, the bigger numerator is the bigger number. So this problem would be a less than. 2/7 is less than 3/7. Remember, the alligator eats the bigger number and avoids the smaller number. So if the denominators are the same, the greater fraction is the larger numerator. Obviously, that's pretty intuitive too, because what if I just change it to have the same denominator, same numerator, then your answer would be those are equal. It's not going to quite be that simple, but let's move on and I'll show you the one rule you need to know. And I think it's going to make it fairly simple for this lesson. Again, though, you just have to remember the process, because it's kind of a little bit of a math hack rather than something which you would figure out how to do on your own. So the rule is that you multiply the diagonals. So let's do that first. And I have to multiply up. So I multiply the diagonals going up. What do I mean by that? Diagonal, diagonal, diagonal. And I go up. So 5 times 13 is 65. I multiply this diagonal up. 20 times 3 is 60. And the rule is simple. Whichever you compare your answers, the bigger number represents the bigger fraction. So 60 is less than 65, or 65 is greater than 60. So this is the bigger fraction. So if I was going to replace the circle here, it would be this fraction is greater than this fraction, because 65 is greater than 60. That's it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. But let's do another one, and then I'll have you try a couple. So let's look at this one. 3/5, comparing it to, nope, that's the same one. Wrong example. Let's try this one. 3/5, just looking at the wrong place on my paper, and 5/14. So I'm comparing them, filling in my blank with either a greater than, a less than, or an equal to. I'll avoid drawing the diagonal so it doesn't look as confusing. So this is going to be blank to fill in. So I multiply up on the diagonals. Multiply up. 5 times 5 is 25. 14 times 3, sometimes you might have to do that one out, is 42. That's significantly bigger than 25, so this is my bigger fraction. So I would put a greater sign in. Again, that's it. Cross multiply up, compare the numbers. All right, so let me have you try one. Let's try this one. We're going to compare 3/5, 2/3, and you're going to fill the circle in with either greater than, less than, or equal to. So hit the pause button and unpause it as soon as you're done, so you'll continue to see the solution. So hit the pause button now. All right, very good. This one is pretty close, but again, it shows how easy this method is. I multiply up diagonally. 5 times 2 is 10. and multiply up diagonally. 3 times 3 is 9, so I'm comparing which is bigger, 9 or 10? Well, 10 is bigger, so that gets the greater side. So there's my symbol. 3/5 is less than 2/3. Hopefully that's not too bad. Let me have you try one more, and that should do it for this lesson. One concept, fairly simple idea. So let's do this one. 4/5, comparing it to 3/4. So you're going to fill in the blank with either a less than, a greater than, or an equal to. So hit the pause button now. Okay, hopefully you went through this one pretty quickly. Multiply diagonally up. 5 times 3 is 15. Multiply up. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 is larger than 15, so this is the greater fraction. So 4/5 is greater than 3/4. Quick, simple lesson, I hope, as long as you remember the process to compare. So that concludes Chapter 5, Lesson 8.